All right, I'm going to show you some of the different sketch tools that you can use to create geometry in Onshape. And so to do that, I'm going to make sure that we are in our IED 2021 folder. I'm going to go ahead and create a new document, and I'm going to call it Sketch Tools, and then my initials. Go ahead and click OK. For this sketch, we are going to be sketching on the top plane. So I'm going to go ahead and click Sketch, click on the top plane, and then I'm going to turn my view so I'm actually looking at the top view. And then I'm going to hide all of the default planes. So I just see my sketch plane. First thing I'm going to do is create a circle at the origin. And so if I click the drop down by circle, there are 3 different types of circles I can make. We're going to be using the center point circle, which is the most common circle sketch tool. So I'll go ahead and click on that, click on my origin, and I will make a circle. Then I can dimension it with the dimension tool. I'm going to make that circle have a diameter of 4 inches. And so once I've done that, I can then use a different tool to create the second circle here in the middle. So I could just come back and draw another circle, but I'm going to show you a different tool. This is the offset tool, so I'm going to go ahead and click that. What it does is it offsets existing geometry. And so I'm going to select the circle that I want to offset. Notice how the arrow is pointing out. We want to drag that arrow in. All right. Then when we place that, we're going to want to have an offset of 3/4 of an inch or 0.75. And so I'll go ahead and click to make that distance 0.75 inches. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use a point tool. And so the point tool is right here. It's very handy when creating construction geometry. And it's also just a really nice tool to have to help locate different features on different parts you'll be modeling. So I'm going to click the point tool, and I'm going to place a point somewhere in the top left. Then I'm going to define where that point is with some dimensional constraints. And so I'll click on the center point and the point that I just created, and I'll pull down a width dimension and click. And then I can go ahead and put a dimension of 4 inches in. So we want this center point, this point to be 4 inches in the width dimension from our other center point. I'll then define the height, type in 1 inch, hit enter. And then we're going to use the circle tool again, the center point circle tool out here to create our next set of geometry. So we're going to have the circle on the outside of this, and it's going to have a diameter of 2 inches. So I'll go ahead and place that in there. And then I can use that offset tool again to make the other circle, and that is going to be a 1/2 inch inside of the larger circle. All right, from here we're going to create some other geometry that connects these 2 points together. And so to do that, I'm going to grab a circle tool again, and I'm just going to come up here somewhere and I'm going to draw a circle in open space. Then we're going to use some geometric constraints. In this case, I'm going to click the drop-down menu and choose tangent. We want the outside edge of this circle to be tangent to this circle and also to this circle. And so when I click tangent constraint, I'm going to say that I want it to be tangent. I want this circle to be tangent with this circle. Oh, let's do that again. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape on my keyboard. And there we go, we've got it. Then this circle to this circle we want to be tangent. Let's try again. And click tangent constraint, this circle to this circle. And we create that tangent point in our geometry. Then I'm going to dimension that circle, and I'm going to make it have a diameter of 1.62 inches. And you can see that we've defined that curve where it's supposed to be in our geometry. The last thing that we're going to need to do is we need to get rid of the top part of this circle where it intersects these other two circles. And to do that, we're going to use the trim tool. So if I click the drop-down menu under the trim, I have several options: split, extend, and trim. In this case, we're going to use trim, so I'll go ahead and click the scissors for trim, and I'll select the top half of that circle, and you can see that it trims the rest of it away, just like we want. The next tool we're going to use to create this bottom arc is the arc tool. I'm going to click the drop-down menu, and in this case, we're going to use a center point arc. And so to do that, I'm going to come up here somewhere, and I'm going to define where the center point of my arc should be. Then I'm going to come over here and select the outside circle and the inside circle, and I can see that it's created that arc for me. I'm also going to want these circles to be tangent, so I'll go ahead and click the tangent constraint, click the arc and the circle, and it'll make that line tangent. Again, I'll click the arc and the circle, and it'll make that second line tangent as well. The last thing we're going to need to do is define the radius of that circle. And so I'm going to make that radius 4.75 inches. Enter. And you can see that we have the first half of our sketch created. The tool we're going to look at as far as our general sketching tools here is the Polygon tool. So if I click the drop down by polygon, I can either have an inscribed polygon where the polygon is created on the outside tangent points of the circle, or a circumscribed polygon where the polygon is created within that circle. For this, I'm going to go ahead and choose an inscribed polygon. I'm going to select a center point. And what it's going to do, first of all, is ask me where I want my polygon to go to. And so I'm just going to come out here and select the edge of my circle. And then it's going to ask me how many sides do I want on my polygon. And so I can go all the way from a triangle, a 3-sided polygon, 5 sides, 6 sides. For this, we are going to create a 6-sided polygon. So I'm just going to go ahead and click to create that. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on my dimension tool, and I'm going to dimension one of the sides of this polygon, and I'm going to make that dimension 1.5 inches. Now, as you can see, all of this geometry turned red. And so what that's indicating to me is that the geometry that I'm trying to create is not possible. And so based on where I selected this polygon to go, this point, the side length cannot be 1.5 inches. And so if you ever run into that problem and it says your sketch cannot be solved, it's because it's not possible to create what you're trying to create. So I'm going to go ahead and click undo. And now that I have that, we're going to go ahead and strap our polygon by adding a vertical constraint to it. So I'm going to go ahead and click vertical. Then I'm going to select these 2 points, and I'm going to make sure those 2 points are vertical so I can then see that object vertical there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and trim out this circle. So I'm going to select the trim tool, and I'm going to trim all of these pieces of this circle. Now you can see that the geometry has become blue again, and I can come back in here and edit this dimension now. I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to put a new dimension in for this line. And now I'm going to say I want it to be 1.25 inches. And notice that my geometry can change because it is not in relationship to that circle that was on the part before. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the line tool. I'm going to come from my origin or my center point, and I'm going to just hover up and make sure I'm lined up with that center point. And when I know I'm lined up, I'm just going to click and I'm going to drag a straight vertical line down the object. I'm then going to select the line and I'm going to click on construction to make that a construction line. And so what a construction line is, again, is that's any type of line that you want to use that is not an object line. All right. I'm then going to get the trim tool and I'm going to trim all of these other lines back to that construction line. So once I have that done, I'm going to use another tool here. Let's say we want this side of our object. It's the exact same geometry on the other side. We can use the mirror tool to create that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on mirror. It's asking us to select a mirror line. That's going to be the construction line we want right here. Then it's going to ask us to select the entities we want to be mirrored. So I'm just going to click and drag a box on all of these other parts. And then I can see that it has mirrored my object over to the other side. I am then going to come in here and I'm going to make a vertical constraint on our polygon again. And I'm going to do that by selecting this outside line here. And you notice then my geometry becomes fully constrained. I do have an extra point in here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that sketch entity. So I'll right click on it and say delete. You can see that that extra point went away. The next thing we're going to learn how to do is we are going to learn how to use a rectangular pattern. And so this is a linear pattern. Under the drop box, there's also a circular pattern. I'm going to go ahead and click linear. Then I'm going to select my geometry. And it's basically asking me how many of these do I want to create. With the rectangular pattern tool, I can go ahead and select the entities that I want. In the case, I'm going to select these two circles. Then I'm going to select this arrow and I can drag it out. Here I can choose how many of these entities I want. And so if I wanted 4 of them, I can type in a 4 right here. And then I can select how far away it should be from the original entity. So in this case, we're going to make it, I meant to type in 2 inches. Let's make it 2.5 inches away. And then I can go ahead and left click and it'll select that feature. And you can see how it's added those entities in that direction. I can then get my line tool and I'm just going to click on a point here and draw a line back to the object. I'm going to do the same thing on the top. I'm going to go up from the center point and click a line. I'm going to put it to the center point on this object. And I can see how that sketch tool could be used to help me create the geometry I want to create. So that's the basics of the different sketch tools in Onshape that we'll utilize. You guys can go ahead and make sure you have this drawing created